right. What's up? What's up? What's up? Sunday, November 9th, 2025. Whew. All right. So, I've had a couple people asking me to get into BeBop. And, uh, you know, when you say, yeah, I'll spend an hour on BeBop, um, it's like, it's like saying, yeah, you can understand my entire life if you just understand, 3 months. And that's just how deep bebop goes, because bebop basically connects jazz, uh, the jazz roots to the jazz branches, and it's just within itself. The lineage is so huge. So there's a couple things I want to say about bebop right off the bat, and then we'll do some listening, and I'll show you some shedding tools that have been passed down to me that I think are very valuable in particularly in developing chromaticism and flexibility with your chromaticism. So, um, the first thing we just have to put on the table and agree upon, or agree to disagree, but jazz is a language with a lineage. And we have to go back to blues and gospel, to all the way to things like work songs and church songs. We have to understand that there's a classical infusion through the European traditions, and particularly through the Afro-Caribbean slave trade and the colonization that happened, and kind of the Creole culture that was really like high society. It was like mixed race high society in some of the Caribbean world, and that basically manifested musically through what became ragtime, and infused itself into the New Orleans musical culture, along with the Creole culture in New Orleans. We had more classical influence through composers and virtuoso instrumentalists in the jazz lineage, studying the classical traditions as well. So Duke and many other composers were bringing in elements of classical composition that they learned by studying that tradition. Incredible virtuosos like an Art Tatum and many others studied classical piano and other instruments as well, and brought all that technical virtuosity and harmonic knowledge and kind of structure into jazz. You also had the Russian classical influence in Cuba, which, of course, the Cuban connection with jazz is huge, and the virtuosity in that tradition is highly influential in all that we consider to be modern jazz and in the bebop era. So we have to look back 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, into New Orleans and the origins of jazz, the marches and the both military and society bands, all of those musical influences coming together, right, and shaping the sound of really what would be popular music in the United States. And as the world became more and more globalized, all over the world. Uh, and so from the very beginning and all through bebop and beyond, we have virtuosity in jazz. We have European harmonies. We have folk music styles from the streets, from the fields, the wailing and the dancing and the lamenting and the telling of stories, right? Deep telling of stories and expressing of emotions. And the Afro Caribbean rhythms and vamps and pentatonics and just non Western style at the foundation of all of that. And then all of that bleeding in, mixing in into what became jazz. So when you ask to study bebop, like you have to, or jazz in general, in some ways, you have to acknowledge that the origin point is there. All that stuff I just talked about. And you can hear it all and you can access it all in its own different kind of conglomerations within the artists of any era. But each artist brings a piece of this tapestry, right? And I think we have to look beyond jazz as purely artist driven if we want to study stylistically and we want to study parts of the music in this way of saying, like, I want to study bebop. And we can't just say, like, hey, chromatic approaches to chord tones and, connect your lines and then also have blues and swing. In some ways, yeah, we can break it down to some of that, right? Chromaticism in harmony and melody. But it's all of this. Okay, so I just need to say that right out front. And when you're going to study bebop, you need to think about listening and absorbing and analyzing the lineage so that you can make connections, because it's all connected. All right. I'm not saying you have to learn everything. I've never been a stickler for that. I've taken some flack for that. I'm limited as a musician for that. And I acknowledge that, right? 100%. And that's okay. Like, we all have to make choices about what our life is going to look like. Nobody can be everything. So this is not a lecture that's meant in any kind of scolding tone. It's really just meant in a acknowledging tone. And I hope you're taking it like that. I want to encourage you to appreciate, to really deeply appreciate what different musicians brought to the instrument and to the language, right? And to really appreciate, I think you have to do that kind of listening and absorbing and analyzing, so that you've made connections. And so when you hear something that's like, whoa, cool, I'd never listened to this record, I never listened to this cat, you can place them in different ways in those contexts, in those connected contexts. And you can appreciate what they brought and what they contributed or what they were going for, even if they're not like the greatest, technician or the greatest whatever, that shouldn't be what we're listening to music for anyway. It's like, well, I only want to listen to the greatest whatever. Okay, with that all as a backdrop, and let me see if anybody's on here with me in Zoom. No, okay, cool. All right, we're recording, so y'all have access to this in the community. All right. Let's see. I have some notes here. Okay. Bebop is an intellectually rigorous and creatively adventurous style, era. Therefore it's harder and it's riskier than like blues or even just swing music. Okay, in my opinion, it is harder and riskier. But it has blues and swing in its DNA. So don't go to bebop and think if you have bebop, you have blues and swing. You've got to have some at least deep listening to blues and swing in order to feel that infused in the DNA of bebop. Now, you can go to bebop and recognize where the blues is and where the swing is. There's a lot of swing and a pretty good amount of blues too, depending on which players you're listening to. So, first thing, if you want to bebop, you better be able to feel swing, play with the swing and feel the blues, and really play with feeling. So, if you're just playing over, let's say, B flat major, a lot of these cats playing simple chords, by the way. Comping, a lot of the time in bebop, pretty simple. Shells, rooted shells, a lot of major 6 chords still, major 7 chords as well, but a lot of major 6. But when we're in swing, right, we're doing 2/5 in B flat. I'm playing simple shells here, rooted shells. If you want to simplify even further, you can go 1-3-7 on C, drop the 7 down a half step, drop a sizzle down a hizzle, and 1-3-6 on B flat. If you want to go even simpler, 1-7, drop 7 down a half step, 1-6, or even 1-7. All right. Now, to swing, right? You gotta feel that. Trying to keep my left hand really simple and just swing. Okay, swing era, the language, improvisationally, used a lot of major blues scale, also known as Kansas City blues scale, based off the major pentatonic plus the minor third. I've talked about this in various resources and videos that I've created. This is a super important scale, but it's nothing without the feel and it's nothing without the language. So, right? Very triplet based. Right? We're swinging. Okay, you've got to know that language if you're going to bebop for real. Okay, so go back to Count Basie, and especially look at Oscar Peterson. Listen to Oscar Peterson. Put it on 0.75 if you need to. Listen to the stuff that he played that wasn't so fast, right? There's plenty of Oscar Peterson that's not burning fast. And like go to Ella and Louie with Oscar Peterson Trio in the background. And Oscar's just swinging his ass off the entire record, right? And just listen to those bluesy, swinging fills and start learning those. How does Oscar make it feel so good? All right. So that's major blues. Minor blues is also important, right? In fact, Oscar uses a lot of minor blues, even over major chords. Like even over this kind of progression, he might play minor blues. And then typically resolve it to major, right? Sometimes you would also get a little bit of a hybrid, right? So the 4 and then resolve. That's minor blues, right? And using the 6 in combination with the flat 5, all right? This language is, in my opinion, absolutely crucial to being able to play jazz in general, jazz with a capital J. And if you want to bebop, everything at the foundation of bebop is this, right? Blues and swing. You got to understand that the resolution of 5-1 isn't always with a flat 9 and a sharp 9. A lot of that happens in bebop, right? Okay, but in the swing era, go back and listen to like Teddy Wilson and Benny Goodman playing. These cats were using a lot of just 5 augmented arpeggio. To create the tension. This guy was a very common chromatic approach. 6 down to the 5. There's some very specific things like the minor third to the major third and the minor third down. Okay. This guy. Okay, so we have to understand these like lineage-based language, characteristic language things. And it's very, very language analogy appropriate. Okay, was like, man, you just don't know how to say that. So, but that's part of the language. It's a really important thing that we say in a language. So, if I was saying something to you in English, um, like, let's see, excuse me, sir, can you tell me how to, and then whatever, right? If you don't understand, excuse me, sir, can you tell me how to? The rest of the sentence almost doesn't matter because you don't have a context for it, right? So you got to understand that, excuse me, sir, can I help you? Sorry. Right? All right. Now, I just wanted to lay that out really clearly as we start because bebop wasn't a thing out of the blue. Bebop was like evolutionary and kind of a transformative take on all the language that was already there, including just like keeping all that language in there. Some of the things that we see in bebop, obviously increased speed. Not that people didn't play fast and swing, but man, beboppers took things to a whole other level, right? Now, again, you could go back to like Art Tatum and be like, well, nobody played as fast ever as Art Tatum, and maybe that's true. And that's why it's important to also acknowledge that like nothing is new, but you can actually push things to new evolutions. And people like Bird, right, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, etc., really did. So another element here, besides increased speed, not all bebop was fast, and not all bebop was about instrumental virtuosity. There's increased chromaticism, both melodically and harmonically, right? And that's why you get people like Thelonious Monk, who came through the bebop era, had the same influences, the same swing and stride influences that all the other cats did. But he studied harmony in a way that he was able to put an evolutionary push forward with his chromaticism, with his embrace of dissonance, and his very, very unique compositional style, right? And some of that was borrowing from classical composers, like using whole tone stuff. And, maybe he was borrowing from Duke Ellington more than he was directly borrowing from Debussy. I'm not actually sure, but Duke Ellington was definitely borrowing from Debussy and Ravel and people like that. So this is just very, very fascinating lineage and all the interconnections here. As we look at like the players to check out, and there's so many. I don't have a comprehensive list for you. I do have a list though that I just threw together before I did the session. I want you to take this list, and if you listen to a couple things by each of these players, you will have a very, very cool and good idea of what bebop was, and you'll certainly run into other names and other players that you can check out as well. So let's do a list of pianists from the bebop era, and I want you to understand that like some of these people were very influential because of their virtuosity. And some of these people, I see Phil has joined us. Hey man, I'm gonna mute your mic. All right, but put something in the chat if you have any questions. All right. Okay. Okay, so some of these people were very influential because of their improvisational virtuosity. Some of were influential because of their harmonic stuff, their melodic stuff, and some because of their composition. And let's see. So here's a list in no specific order, except that I wanted to make sure I got a couple of women in here who are badasses. There's a lot of badass women players who we don't hear about, and it's important to pull that thread a little bit and recognize that, like, actually there were some fantastic female musicians who just didn't get their due, or don't historically get mentioned nearly as much as their male counterparts. So Oscar Peterson, right? And Oscar was a cat who was a bridge figure from the swing era through the bebop era, and really important one to check out in that sense. Sonny Clark. Sonny is a fantastic cat to check out for the bluesy side of things, as well as just like really nicely honed language. And Sonny, I think, would probably be in the column of hard bop pianists. And so he's a nice bridge from that just like straight bebop also into the more bluesy hard bop. Thelonious Monk, right? And I don't think I need to say a whole lot about Monk, except that obviously his compositions and his harmonic innovations were his biggest evolutionary contributions to the art. And the way he played the piano, while it maybe not my favorite, and many other people might feel that way, it's like, he banged pretty hard on that piano. He had a distinct intention with his playing at all times, and that is, for me, basically everything. Basically, if I had to choose one thing beyond all things, it's intention. And Monk had that no matter what. Barry Harris is another cat who came up in the bebop era and taught everybody how to play bebop for generations after that. If you haven't checked out Barry Harris and you're a pianist, you definitely need to check out his stuff. He's got all sorts of beautifully organized methodologies for this. Now, when I get into some nuts and bolts in a few minutes, I'm not going to do the Barry Harris method. There's lots of resources out there for the Barry Harris method, and Barry Harris created a lot of those resources. You should go to those. Here's a couple of women to check out. Terry Pollard, Pollard. She was a badass. And she was a mallet player as well, so like xylophone, marimba, I think, but xylophone and pianist. And Shirley Scott, organist. So I think Terry Pollard probably pretty squarely in the bebop era. Shirley Scott very much more like a Sonny Clark into the hard bop stuff. She played organ and was very much like right up there contemporary with like Jimmy Smith, just in that super cool jazz blues organ era. Shirley was probably more jazzified than Jimmy Smith ever was. Jimmy was much more in that blues category. And but Shirley's definitely worth checking out. Kenny Drew, John Lewis. John Lewis, of course, was part of the Modern Jazz Quartet. Oh, shoot. Whoops. Modern Jazz Quartet. MJQ. It's Q for quartet or quintet. John Lewis is not the politician John Lewis, the pianist. Really important figure in that era, and for decades afterwards, also as like a very important kind of jazz figurehead, who influenced many generations after him. Phineas Newborn, or Finus Newborn. Uh, Phineas was a candle that burned out too early, but his record, A World of Piano, was kind of a benchmark for badass bebop jazz piano playing that I don't know if anybody would even ever want to compare themselves to, because it's pretty much like the highest bebop level you can attain. Um, and I will say, like, Phineas's playing was highly organized, and so it's a great reference point for transcription and for absorbing techniques and language, and just slow it down as much as you need to slow it down, you know, and learn some of the things that he did. He was great at using pedal tones, great at using blues, and just like killing bebop language. Oftentimes playing melodies in both hands, an octave apart, well, with an octave in between, and just like 3 times, 5 times as fast as that, destroying it. At one point, about 15 years ago, I transcribed his solo on Oleo, and I could play it. No longer. So it would take me a little while to get that back. So I'm not going to try to do it right now. All right. And just a couple more. Bud Powell. You really can't say bebop piano playing without Bud Powell. Also a candle that burned out too early. But yeah, a lot of these cats from the bebop era kind of lived hard. And, by the time they were in their 30s or 40s, things were going wrong. But Bud made such a huge influence on so many people. And then, of course, Bill Evans. Bill Evans, super important. He, I think, he's a cat whose like swing feel was maybe less less. I don't know what the right word is, but like it's just less conforming to what I kind of typically feel. He swung like really hard and really deliberately, and sometimes it's on the verge of being like over the top. But Bill's harmonic imagination, his motivic imagination, his linear integrity, and his voicings, his harmonic chromaticism, like all these things, his compositions, and the way he played between his left and right hand was hugely influential and an important transition marker between, I think, like our swing, bebop, and post-bop. When you listen to the left hand distinctions of, say, a Herbie Hancock, who I'm not even putting in this bebop era because he really came up in that bebop era, but was like a hard bopper and then really transitioning into post-bop. But you listen to him and other players who came after that, Keith Jarrett, Chick, they were very influenced by Bill Evans' left hand, and the interaction between his left and right hand. So there's so many more, but that's a list for you to check out. Okay, Oscar, Sonny Clark, Monk, Barry Harris, Terry Pollard, Shirley Scott, Kenny Drew, Hampton Hawes. Oh, did I skip over Hampton Hawes? Hampton Hawes is an important cat too. Hampton Hawes, John Lewis, Finest Newborn, Phineas Finest, Bud Powell, and Bill Evans. All right, start there. Listen, absorb, analyze. Now, let's practice some nuts and bolts. Okay. Like I said, increased speed obviously was the thing. Increased chromaticism, melodically and harmonically, is a really, really important part of this. Okay, I'm just going to take, before I start diving in, just take a pause and check the chat. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. So, I had a teacher named Charlie Banakis. Charlie is basically like the Yoda of Boston jazz. Everybody who came through Boston either knew of or studied with Charlie Banakis. And I count myself among the very, very fortunate folks who got to study in depth with him for several years. And Charlie suffered a very untimely death in his mid-50s, and just absolutely tragic. But he influenced so many people. And Charlie had a systematic way of approaching everything. And so I just want to hand on this method because this totally reshaped my ability to play with chromaticism melodically. All right. So if you take a chord and let's say we're on C minor 7, okay? Okay. We have an arpeggio. 1, 3, 5, 7. You can also do this to the 9. Or start on the 3 and do 3, 5, 7, 9. You can also come down. All right? But Charlie's initial teaching to me was to take the 4-note arpeggio and choose a chromatic approach. So, just separate from my left hand a little bit. Let's take a G. And we're going to chromatically approach to the G in all 12 ways that we can do using combinations of 1s and 2s. So we have 1 from above, 1 from below, both, and both. So 1A, 1A, 1B, 1B, 1A. All right, now we have 2 from above, 2 from below. We have 2A, 1B, 2B, 1A, 1A, 2B, 1B, 2A, and then we have 2A, 2B, 2B, 2A. And, okay, so, and there's plenty of, alternatives to those, right? This is a really typical one, where it's like 1A, 1B, 2A, but then you also go 1B and then get there. And by 1B, I'm saying 1 from below, right? And A is above. And of course, there's like diatonic plus chromatic variations. And there's not just 2 from above, 2 from below. You could do 3, you could do 4. But this is a lot of chromatic information and melodic information in practice already, right? So choose a chord tone out of your 4. Let's choose a 5. Why not? And choose a chromatic approach. So how about just to keep it simple, like 2 from below, Whoa, it's the blue scale. Let's do 1A, 2B. There we go. So that's your arpeggio. There's your arpeggio with a chromatic approach. I like the idea of going through this experimentally in one key, and until you find a variation that you like, and then go through 12 keys. So let's go through until we find one that we like, we being me. How about 2B, 2A to the 1? I'm cheating because I know that's a nice one. All right. I like that. Now you're going to practice that through 12 keys. Etc., right? I messed up G. 3 times. C. Okay. And again, you could do 3, 5, 7, 9 if you prefer. If I did, or that's tricky. I don't love that one, so I'm not going to practice it through 12 keys. See what I'm saying? I want to practice things that I really, actually, I think, ooh, that's nice. I think I want to play that. Because as you practice through 12 keys like this, you're going to start to absorb the language and the patterns. So you want these patterns to be like, ooh, this is nice. This is a thing, right? Now, Charlie had a very systematic and mathematical approach to this where he was like, it doesn't matter. In fact, it's better if some of these things don't feel right or don't sound great, because you want to have freedom within this. And you want to be able to like use this kind of chromaticism to navigate when you make mistakes too. And or to just like be in a more explorative mode than like explicitly playing shit that you know is cool, which can get old, right? So I love that approach. I did a lot of it, right? Where you just take the same approach to each chord tone in your arpeggio and go through 12 keys like that. So say we had like 2 from above. A flat's tricky. Fingering. Okay, and another thing to do is to be conscious about what you're doing in your left hand. I started moving around there, and it made me think about it, because for me, practicing 1-3-7 shells maybe isn't that useful, but maybe practicing some kind of chromatic like stride pattern would be, right? So maybe I would want to go like boom, 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 boom. Oops. Maybe just tense. Or chromatic from below. Sometimes you gotta spend some time to figure out what's a good thing. Kind of like that. All right. So then my next arpeggio in the sequence would be, and this, this rhythm doesn't fit that well if you start on one. But that one does. So again, for me, I want to optimize to things that feel and sound good as much as possible. So I would probably recommend, okay, you don't like this, then go one ba did do ba do, or 1 2 ba do ba do, 1 2 ba did do ba did do ba. Maybe it's that. Ba ba do da ba da. Right? Find a way that it works for you. Whoops. Etc. Okay. Okay, cool. I don't want to get too far out on a tangent and lose the train. But all of these things are important, right? Being conscious about how you're practicing your left hand, keeping it consistent through your 12 keys when you practice, making music out of your practice, given that I have like 10 minutes left, I want to show you how this might incorporate then into navigating through changes in a way that really becomes like bebop language, right? So you can see that our core practice is arpeggiating chord tones and chromatically approaching one of those, right? And let me just say, sometimes you don't need a 7th chord arpeggio. All you need is just the triad. I love a triad arpeggio. You know who loves a triad arpeggio? Herbie Hancock. And man, like, if it's good enough for Herbie, it's good enough for me. This guy, this is a great 2 from below, 2 from above, great chromatic approach. And then just like come down an arpeggio. And then, let's say we're in this 2/5. All right. 1 from above, 2 from below to the 5. Just do my arpeggio, and then chromatic approach to the 3 of the F7. Chromatic approach to the 5 of the B flat. B flat major triad. Swing era. You can see you started adding the extra chromaticism on top of the swing era. you start to get something that starts to sound like bebop. You don't always have to play the 2 chord and the 5 chord to get to the 1 chord. Sometimes you play the 2 chord and you just resolve into the language of the 1 chord, right? If you know your swing and your blues, you don't even need a 5 chord a lot of the time, right? You could just arpeggiate the 2 chord and then play some blues. Okay, so arpeggiate the 2 chord. So that's all just variations of me just riffing on chromaticism on the 2 chord, and then not even worrying about the 5 chord. Just play blues on the 1, right? We could be very explicit about getting to the 5 chord. We could also go over the bar line with the 5 chord and then get to the resolution on the 1 a little bit later than the 1, than the downbeat. Let's see. That's another part of the bebop language. So, is the diddlyas, buddlyas, buddlyas, buddlya, 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 shia, buddlya, buddlya, buddlya. All right, and always back to swinging blues, right? Always. Okay. I want to end with this. It's a language. So we're going to come back to where we started. And even if we're just honing in on the bebop, right? And only on a bebop, we're going to listen to the language and we're going to absorb it, right? And this is the crux of basically any and every musical lesson I'll ever give is listen and absorb, analyze so you understand it, and try to be able to have it inside you. And then you're putting it out, what is inside you, through the vehicle of the instrument in your hand. Let's end with a little listening to, wow, look at that insane desktop. Pay no attention to the insane desktop. Something happened with my iOS update, and my whole desktop dumped, my whole iCloud dumped onto my desktop, which is insane. And I haven't figured out how to clean it up yet. But I'm not going to show you all that. Oh, that's what I'm working on right here. But let's go here and let's just listen to some Charlie Parker, huh? Okay, here we go. All right, and just a FYI, there's some there's a lot. I just can't do the entire thing in one lesson, obviously. But there's a rhythmic thing that beboppers, and then especially post-boppers, but there's evolutions in post-bop that change. But beboppers really started hitting on the and of four more, whereas before in swing we've been more like 1, 1, 2, and. So 1, boom, right? And also like the inverse. So we get 1, 2, 3, and hit on the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, ba, ba. Whereas beboppers started going 1, 2, 3, ba, ba, more, right? Not that never happened in swing. Of course it did, but that became much more of the thing. It's like landing on the and of four. If you play with like an old school swing drummer, you'll hear that fill on the and of three and then to the 1. Ba ba doo ba right? Okay, just want to say that I'm going to fade out on Charlie Parker. Listen, sing along, absorb that language. I will see you all the next time. That's the biddly-a-doos. Biddly-a-doo, but diddly-a-doo-ba-da. Chromaticism, adventurousness, risk. Billiards. Oh, adventurousness, risk, blues, chromaticism, blues, swing language. Ooh, work that out. Yep. Take care, y'all.